Welcome to the Future of Ground Transportation podcast, where we discuss the exciting innovations that lie ahead for organizational ground transportation. Each episode, we cover topics tailored to those resolving transportation-related challenges and provide tips, tools, and trends that will inspire you to stay ahead of the curve. And now, here's your host, Daniel Perez.
Welcome to the Future of Ground Transportation. Today we have a special guest, Nandini. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
I was excited. We look forward to hearing more about your expertise on mobility, ride sharing, autonomy, and partnership. So let's, without further ado, if you want to tell us a little bit about your career, how did you get started, and where are you now?
Yes. I started my career actually mostly in investment banking. I was working at JP Morgan on Wall Street in the tech industry, helping companies do M&As and IPOs. And that's how I really saw the impact of technology transforming industries. And I wanted to move from advising companies to actually building. And I joined Uber in 2015 when Uber was really growing in the US as well as around the world in a business and corporate development role. And I was there for Uber across this entire exponential growth story from 2015 to 2022 for about 7 years. And I had the privilege to be a part of grow at all costs to the cultural transformation that led, and I'm sure has been well written and spoken about Uber, and then being part of taking the company public, IPO, and then the post IPO global expansion. And then when everything was perfect, COVID hit and impacted mobility in ways that no one could ever imagine. And in all of this, we also at Uber launched our Uber Eats business, just the delivery business. So, how mobility has shaped and ride sharing has evolved across the world during the last decade has been a big part of my experience. And the core role I played is really helping Uber expand in different countries, specifically in Asia Pacific, which had different nuances of each country, be it consumers, drivers, regulations, cities. And thereafter, I have been at Wabi, which is an AI company building autonomous software using Gen AI. And that is the first use case for that technology is autonomous trucking. So now I've been a part of commercialization of the next generation of mobility technologies, which is autonomy. So as people have been saying for a long time, the future of mobility is shared, electric, and autonomous. And I've had great experiences across all three of them over the last decade.
Got it. That's awesome. That is very well said. Awesome. So what concerns and obstacles are you currently seeing on the next 5 to 10 years? Because I had a ton of experts in the podcast, and from what I could tell, no one has a crystal ball to like really dictate what is the next sort of fires that we're going to see on the street. But at least, what is your intuition and vision on the next 5 to 10 years as
Yeah,
far as mobility and ride sharing and autonomy?
Yeah. I think ride sharing is a clearly proven category at this point. A lot of us, I'm sure, are using Uber and other players in different parts of the world in terms of how we go move around cities. And so that has definitely emerged as a clear category that people are used to. I think the next wave is going to be how it really replaces personal car ownership, and that's been a big use case. There are definitely very clear use cases where Uber works perfectly, but there are many use cases where people want to still have their personal car. So I think that's going to be still a big segment out there that Uber will continue to invest and innovate to see how they can get a higher share of the wallet from the customer. But really, if you ask me in terms of the crystal ball, I think autonomy is happening. Finally the technology, the data, the cloud, the AI, all the approaches are converging to a way that the technology is going to happen very soon. And then the real question becomes, how does that technology get deployed, and how fast it can be deployed, and how safely it can be deployed. And that's where the fun begins in building the commercialization model that really creates a win-win for everybody, and also the regulation and the public trust in scaling those technologies. It is clear to me that autonomy will be safer than the human drivers. It will be more sustainable. It will be more efficient. Um, question is, when will the technology be ready to be truly, truly deployed in a commercial manner versus today, where it's still being in the pre-commercialization phase. So it's being tested. It's getting better and better as we speak. It's still a couple of years away from deployment. And I think that's going to really change how um, our cities look and feel. I still remember a decade ago when we were talking about Uber going into the cities and explaining them that this is going to change how your parking layouts look, and this is going to change how airports build the next terminal, and this is going to change the next set of investments you're making over the next couple of years when this truly scales. And people didn't understand initially, and I'm sure you can now see that Uber is a front and center of how we live and operate in cities, whether it's a pickup point or whether how people think about their economic wages and things like that. So that's what's going to happen with autonomy as well. It's obviously going to take time, and there's going to be so much opportunity uh, for people to create new businesses, new lines of service, but also reskill themselves to be a part of the new world.
Yeah, that's well said. And you mentioned that autonomous vehicle will be safer. Can you dive a little bit in it and why you think it's going to be safer?
Yeah, I mean, it's at the end, we know that majority of the accidents that happen today are because of human error, and that human error is fatigue, it's many other factors. And once you have a vehicle where there's not just the software making decisions, which is getting better and better, but also it has all this lidars, radars, sensors, cameras. It has a 360-degree vision versus a human cannot have that level of vision. So with that kind of visibility and data, the reaction time, all of those factors combined together are going to make the autonomous system safer. And the early data from Waymo suggests already that it is safer in some of those situations. From what they have collected with the most real world miles, I think Waymo is the only one that has the scale of miles already in the real world today, and it is already proving it out to be that way. And you can already see that. I don't know if you've noticed, but I have already seen it where they are much safer, much more careful, versus for a human, it depends on the mood of the day, versus for a robot, you've already kind of trained it to operate a certain way.
Totally. And tell us a little bit about you, changing a little bit of the subjects. Tell us a little bit about let's dive a little bit into AI. Where does AI plays a crucial role on the mobility or ride sharing or the autonomy side?
Yeah. So I think AI is the biggest technology transformation of our generation. It has been around, just that it is taking a front and center stage now because of the scale of data, and the speed of development and deployment is at a different scale. If you take ride sharing, AI has been deployed at Uber for several years before ChatGPT was even a thing. As you think about machine learning and every trip prediction, Uber is doing million trips an hour, I think. And it's like such a scale of data that you have around your trips and information and pickup points and drop off points and behavior. And with all of that data, there is obviously a lot of insights and reasoning that is available that goes into that marketplace in terms of predicting when do you get the next best driver, or what should be the right pricing, or what should be the right things. Obviously that all happens behind the scenes, and consumers didn't see it, so it was hard to understand that AI and ML were already being deployed for companies of those sizes. As I talk about autonomy, uh, autonomous technology has been being developed over the last decade. Waymo has been at it. Many other companies have come and gone in building autonomous tech around the world. And one of the challenges they've all have had is they have been traditionally building with a robotics led approach, which has taken a long time to develop. And it's been very, very capital intensive. And it has required a lot of testing on the road to make sure it's right. With the AI led approach, uh, it's another way of doing and going about the same problem, but with the core AI technologies, and which is companies like Wabi are leading with. And what AI really does is makes it much faster to develop, much more capital efficient, and much more safer. So it's like
Sorry, sorry, Nadine. Why is that? Why we makes it less capital intense?
Yeah, because the AI technologies are using foundation models versus the traditional methods were about hand engineered approaches. You have to go and tweak different modules, different software stacks, bring them together, versus with AI, it's foundation model driven. So, what I'm saying is the AI technologies now are matured enough that they can be deployed in a much faster time to development. And because it's faster to develop, you also need less resources and less testing on the road. So it saves you time and money both. That's why a lot of acceleration in terms of development of these technologies is happening now versus before.
Got it. And as far as the autonomous vehicles, how soon, if you were to have a crystal ball, we will see them rolling through Canada and the US?
I mean, they're already, Waymo is already deployed, I think in 8 or 9 cities already. So it's already happening. Autonomous trucks, Aurora is one of the leading players that they have already launched in Texas. Wabi and others are also coming very soon. So as I said, the technology it's to a point that it's getting there very, very fast. Now, the question is how quickly it can scale to multiple cities, multiple, endpoints, and really get in the hands of the customer. But technology is getting very, very ready for prime time.
And what do you think are the main obstacles? I know that you mentioned trucks are pretty much almost there, but what there's buses and other modalities of autonomous, like what do you think would be the main obstacles as we enter that new era?
Yeah, I think, for any new technology and in any new category, a lot of things have to come together in the ecosystem to really make it happen. First is obviously, do you have even the technology kind of getting ready? The technology for robotaxi and for autonomous trucking is getting to the point that it can be deployed in the near term. But a software alone cannot do much. It has to be integrated into a vehicle that works. That means you have to work with the OEMs who actually produce those vehicles to integrate that software that we all know are relatively slow and take their own time. And then you also have to work with customers who should be ready to deploy that technology in a way that it's economically useful for them. The price points have to work, the unit economics have to work. So I think there's a lot of interest from customers, but people still need to prove what it'll exactly take to not just save money, but also deploy those technologies in their existing network. They will have to operate a hybrid network, a traditional plus a autonomous one, which has its own complexity. So we are, and then the last thing I will say is regulation and public trust. That is a very, very important piece in a new technology like this. It takes a significant time to make sure all parties and stakeholders who are involved, we are committed to making it a success. And we've seen even from the early Uber days, Uber as a technology was exciting and customers are happy and the initial drivers are happy, but then it still took a lot of time with the unions and many, many stakeholders to make sure that there was a way to work and scale that technology versus just having 50 cars. And once you're going to have 5,000 cars, it's going to matter how the city perceives it. So, as I would say, it's the technology readiness, then OEM, then customers, and then the regulators and public trust. To get all of this right, it's going to take a while.
Totally agree. That's very well said. And as far as partnerships, what comes to mind when it comes to you have the OEMs, the or the manufacturing companies, the electrical vehicle companies, the autonomous software technology. What comes to your mind when it comes to partnerships? What could be created in that sort of ecosystem to continue to move the needle?
I think it's a very interesting question because this is a situation where expertise matters and everyone is different. Different players have different expertise who all need to come together. So a company like Wabi or Waymo and others who are developing the autonomous software are experts at making the software, but that's all they're experts at. Then there is original equipment manufacturers who are very experts at making the vehicle, and that's all they're experts at. They can make the software. They have tried and failed. Then there is this autonomous hardware that will come along with it, the lidars, the radar, the sensors, the camera. There are different set of tier one manufacturers who are going to make that. So to bring that. And then obviously, then you have to work with that infrastructure. This is not a product that works in the cloud. So there is going to be terminals and infrastructure where these things will be maintained and serviced and checked and operated. So so many people have to come together that all bring their own value to the equation, and that value has to be shared across everybody to make sure everybody's incentivized to come and operate. And that economic equation is still being figured out, is the way I would say it. Everybody is very important. No one can do it alone. And that's the fun of building the ecosystems of getting this technology to market.
Got it. Got it. Thank you, Nandini. Appreciate your thoughts. And so, what advice would you give to founders and leaders trying to build it or scale it into this sort of categories?
Yeah. I would say the founders and leaders who are focused on building anything in mobility, right? Be it services, software, or deep tech, or anything. I think the biggest advice I would say is go after, really have a good understanding of your addressable market. I think everyone thinks, oh, mobility is a massive market. Yes, it is a massive market. It's so fundamental to our economy that it is a massive market. But within that market, what segment are you going to play? And what's the share of wallet that you're going to get? The saying that it's $1 trillion market in America is great, but that doesn't mean you will have a share of that $1 trillion. So I think the market segmentation and understanding who is the buyer and what is their equation of making that purchase is a very, very important one.
Got it. Got it. Thank you. No, that's very well said. And if you had a crystal ball, when it comes to flying vehicles, I always gotta ask here: do you see flying vehicles competing with autonomous vehicles at one point, or you think that's just much further down the line? What are your thoughts here?
I was at Uber when Uber launched its thing called Uber Air, which was the flying vehicles, and we have like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and now it's kind of moved on. So my view on flying vehicles is, again, I think they will happen. Whether they can scale as fast, not sure. I think the use case is going to be very, very specific. In very congested cities where people have the willingness to pay a very, very high amount going from airport to the central business district, I see that logic. But expecting that flying vehicles will be like ride sharing right away is a very long shot for me. I think it's just a very complex one. I also do not think, I actually think autonomy will play a big role there as well. They need to be autonomous at some point because that's where it becomes very efficient. And the airplanes today are already pretty autonomous. So I could see a world where all these things converge to a point. I think again it'll take a while, and I don't think it'll be a high volume game.
Got it. Thank you, Nandini. And do you see the need for humans to even own vehicles in the near future, or do you see that it's going to be mainly kind of like an Uber account where you get, autonomous vehicles all over the place, and based on your expenditure, based on your platinum goal or premium, you're going to get transported in.
I mean, I would say it's a generational thing, right? Our parents' generation was all about owning personal cars. Our generation has really adapted well to ride sharing. I've done 7,000 trips on Uber. I use Uber primarily to go anywhere, be it a yoga class to airport to etc. Right? So people have really adopted it. The next generation doesn't want to learn driving because they're like, why deal with it when I can take an Uber? And I can totally see my daughter, who's a 7-year-old, who's going to take autonomous cars growing up pretty fast. Like, we probably will not need to do pickup drops till when they're 16, 18, right? Like, they will actually be able to use autonomous cars much faster and they will grow up using that. So, it's every decade or 15 years of like next transformation. Again, I still believe driving is a life skill, so I'm not saying it, but it's like there is people value their time and convenience. And if these systems are going to be so reliable that they can be at your home in 3 minutes and it's clean and safe and a pleasurable experience, why not?
Totally agree. That's very well said. And changing a little bit of the subjects, what is the best business or career advice you ever gotten so far?
Yeah, I think I would say that, we all focus on the what what do we need to do and what is the impact, and what really matters is the how. I think the people and the relationships make the impossible happen. Building strong teams, having trusted partners, as I mentioned, to really make these transformational changes to the world around us and the communities around us requires a lot of collaboration. And a lot of those bold ideas and collaboration requires trust. So all of that is really a big part of the learning that I've had in the last, you know, 2 decades. And I think that advice was given to me early on by one of the senior leaders, and that's really helped me.
That's very well said. And last question is, what is the best business or professional career books that you would recommend the most to all the listeners?
I generally like reading a lot of the memoir books. Bob Iger's Ride of a Lifetime about his journey at Disney, or a Phil Knight's Shoe Dog about the journey of Nike. I think they're all really inspirational, but also have very authentic real world examples that really help you reflect and learn on what it takes to build these iconic generational companies. And that's what keeps you going on tough moments. So I really enjoy those reads.
Awesome. Well, Nandini, thank you so much for providing us with your knowledge, with your wisdom. How can listeners stay in contact with you?
Yeah, you can reach out to me on my LinkedIn. It's Nandini Maheshwari. I would love to hear from you, and if I can be helpful in any way, please ping me.
Perfect. We will make sure to add your information to the episode notes. Thank you again, and for all the listeners, to stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you, Nandini. Have a great day.
Thank you, Daniel. It was fun.
Hey, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in today. We hope you enjoyed the episode and got some valuable insights. If you're curious to learn more, head over to the resource website at dpvtransportation.com, where we got a ton of useful resources and tools for you to stay ahead of the game. And before we wrap it up, I want to invite you to book a free gas emission consultation or a consultation about your ground transportation program with us. Just register on our website. Is a fantastic way to see how your fleet is doing or how your overall program could be improved. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll catch you next time on the future of ground transportation. Have a great day.
Thanks for tuning in to the future of ground transportation. We appreciate you coming along for the ride. If you found value in this episode and want to hear more, please make sure to subscribe to the show.